It's a tough topic to talk in 20 minutes. I'll try my best to do justice to this. Okay, uh, it's uh, it's a it's one of the key challenges we have that's hurting our industry today. It's about fake, fraud, and the frenemies that's affecting our business. So typically, what happens is we don't look at a system till such time it doesn't work. When it doesn't work, we suddenly get into it to try to understand it. Often, we know why it exists, but we don't know how it works. And in our business today, the way the technology is sort of entrenched into our ecosystem, it's like technology doing a good equally, the same technology being used to fake systems, to fraud the system, and become frenemies as well. The frenemy definition here is not the conventional frenemy definition that's being used earlier. Here I want to highlight that the frenemies are between the marketeers and the ecosystem itself, not between people here. So there are three types of challenges we have today. One is fake news, where the deliberate disinformation misleading to gains. There's also ad fraud, where more often than not, it's not the impressions that really count. It's not the human who is seeing it, but machines just click forms giving you bot impressions. And often we also know about the gardens who protect their own information, and we struggle to find a way in which we compile everything together. It's not working? So.
Okay, thanks. Right, so all these three things are very big challenges we face today. I'll talk about the first thing in the middle. It is estimated that nearly 40% of the ecosystem that's fraudulently implemented in the marketplace. It's close to roughly around 3.5 billion in terms of ad spends, where they are not genuine impressions, they are bots that's putting across the system. If you look at the frenemies, I think somebody talked about the consumer journey earlier. Everybody talks about the consumer journey, but the reality is that we really don't know the full journey, the full picture, because it's always broken. There is a search journey, there is a social journey, there is another journey from another platform, but nobody really knows the full consumer journey. That's because each of them is protecting their own information. And as much as 9 million impressions have been led on fake news on particular topic, so these are big challenges today. And someone talked about the LumaScape as well. And we are trying to solve these problems to a bunch of band-aids, like the chart you can see here. If you typically took at a tech stack or a marketing stack, at least you have 10 to 12 technological interventions to solve the problem. So it's not, it's getting overwhelming for the marketers. I really want to use this video to put this context in place. It's, all of us have watched Matrix quite a few times, but nothing better than this clip that puts the context in place. 4 minutes video, please.
Care for some company?
Counselor,
I don't want to intrude if you prefer to be alone.
no, I could probably use some company.
Good. So could I. It's nice tonight. Very calm. Feels like everyone is sleeping very peacefully.
Not everyone.
I hate sleeping. I never sleep more than a few hours. I figure I slept the first 11 years of my life, now I'm making up for it. What about you?
I just haven't been able to sleep much.
It's a good sign.
Of what?
That you are in fact still human. Have you ever been to the engineering level? I love to walk there at night. It's quite amazing. Would you like to see it?
Sure.
Almost no one comes down here unless the court says it's a problem. That's how it is with people. Nobody cares how it works as long as it works. I like it down here. I like to be reminded this city survives because of these machines. These machines are keeping us alive while other machines are coming to kill us. Interesting, isn't it? Power to give life, and the power to end it.
We have the same power.
I suppose we do, but down here sometimes I think about all those people still plugged into the matrix, and when I look at these machines, I can't help thinking that in a way we are plugged into them.
But we control these machines. They don't control us.
Of course not. How could they? The idea is pure nonsense, but it does make one wonder just what is control?
If we wanted, we could shut these machines down.
That's it. You hit it. That's control, isn't it? If we wanted, we could smash them to bits. Although if we did, we'd have to consider what would happen to our lights, our heat, our air.
So we need machines and they need us. Is that your point, Counselor?
No. No point. Old men like me don't bother with making points. There's no point.
Is that why there are no young men on the council?
Good point.
Why don't you tell me what's on your mind, Counselor?
There is so much in this world that I do not understand. See that machine? It has something to do with recycling our water supply. I have absolutely no idea how it works, but I do understand the reason for it to work. I have absolutely no idea how you were able to do some of the things you do, but I believe there's a reason for that as well. I only hope we understand that reason before it's too late.
Blockchain is supposed to be the one that's going to come in to solve this problem before it's too late. So that's the script I'm going to talk to you about it today. So if you look at the clip, there are a lot of things that I want to bring back to attention about the technology, about whether we know it fully or not. Is it helping us? It is solving the problem, or it is creating more problems to us? And sometimes we even say that it is not working, throw it out, destroy it, put somebody else to solve the problem. That's a typical situation where we are today with our ad tech ecosystem. Is blockchain going to solve the problem or not? There was a study that was conducted a year back which said that media and entertainment and gaming is the 5th most critical industry after banking, finance, insurance, and governing. That's going to have blockchain in its technology to adopt and help the situation. Let's spend some time why I believe blockchain is useful for this. Today, in the new world, there are 3 stakeholders in the ecosystem. There is a marketer on one side, the platform in which we engage on the other side, and the consumers on the third side. All that marketer wants is a reach and engagement at a good price and ensure that everything is done properly and verified. All the platform wants is a fair exchange for a good price in time without any delays in terms of payment. That helps them to generate more content and increase the user base. And all the consumer wants is inexpensive access to this content, not being intrusive, not being irrelevant, and not being spied upon. If you look at these 3 requirements, there is an asymmetry. It's not symmetric. There is a perfect storm amongst these 3 stakeholders because the needs, the wants, and the requirements are totally different. And that's primarily because today more than 2/3 of the information we have is not with us. Gone are the days of the past when marketers used to have their own servers where they can build their own information. The first-party data used to remain the single most important and the only data. Today, if you look at your lives, most of the time, more than 2/3 of our information is not with us, it's with somebody else. What it means is that the database is all distributed. It's not in one place, which is what typically we call as the Web 3.0, which we are getting into today. It's all about real-time applications, connected devices, analytics between each other, and all distributed in different locations. So as such, we are in a situation where we don't own anything, but it is just that the ownership is distributed and not being responsibly handled. That's where blockchain as a technology we believe is going to come in and help solve the problem. So I'm not going to talk about blockchain per se. I'm going to really spend time on what it means from a distributed ledger technology point of view, which is a larger universe, And I'm not going to talk about Bitcoin either. So it's not about cryptocurrency. It's about blockchain as a technology, which is about distributed databases and how it's going to be used and managed for a better ecosystem today. This is a chart from IBM. I'm going to use it because with reference to them. We have always lived like this for a very long period of time. If you look at any processes today, the manufacturer maintains his own record, the raw material supplier maintains his own record, banks have their own records of the same thing, insurance company have their own records for the same product, regulators have their own records, and auditors have their own records. For a single one process, we are already having 6 different ledgers that maintains the same thing. And that's pretty expensive. That's because it's about disconnected taxonomy. We're spending multiple infrastructures to maintain the same information. Even though we say that the positives are it's secure, it's autonomous, I can take care of it myself, I can query myself very well, but the cost of doing this business is now becoming disproportionately higher because we are reinventing the wheel. Each component of it are maintaining their own information and challenges. So this distributed databases at this point of time, because it's already more than 2/3 outside the system, requires some kind of a ledger process where they all can sit together, connected in some form or the other, where a consensus mechanism through which we agree that the information in all the 6 records are maintained properly. It could be geographically spread, it could be anywhere else, but it can be maintained economically, and there is actually no central administrator. The system takes care of it in itself. So that's the broad concept of distributed technology. So to my mind, I think the McKinsey person talked about it earlier. This should be the first starting point for digital transformation because it's about data and maintaining it properly in a particular ledger. So let's move on from these 2 segments. We are now moving into the 3rd stage of information, which is about smart contracting or a cryptographic way of maintaining this information so that a program automatically triggers an action and this information can be securely maintained through some privacy norms and other stuff. So this is how a typical smart contract looks. It's a small single program that runs and triggers action today. The 4th element is what we call as the consensus protocol, where the ledger information is approved by a set of people who maintains and owns this, so that it provides authenticity, authorization, and a proper approach to maintain it. I'll tell you why I'm saying all these things is because I'll just come back to this chart. So from a blockchain or a distributed technology point of view, there are 5 key elements we need to keep in mind. A good database maintained as a ledger, cryptographically managed, and a consensus that helps manage the whole system very well. So I'm going to keep this as a construct and now jump into how it affects or impacts our business today. If you look at our programmatic landscape, we are already having 6 ledgers in the market system right now. An advertiser and an agency maintains a record, the trading desk maintains another record, DMP maintains another record, the ad exchanges maintains another record, publishers maintain another records. So we're already in a system where just in the value chain between an advertiser and the consumer, we're already maintaining different records. And each of them are deduplicating the information, open for misinterpretation, lack of trust, and manipulation of information. So if you superimpose this with those 4 elements of blockchain in terms of cryptography and in terms of consensus protocol, we believe this technology can solve the problem. Some numbers are put in here to give you a sense of what it is. For every dollar an advertiser spends today, almost 50% of it is going towards the technology is required to manage it. It's not sustainable. You cannot have 50% of the money that's being used to serve business when it should be actually be used to reach more consumers. So if you have a distributed ledger which manages all these 6 records, you don't need to spend so much time and money. You can actually simplify it to get into a proper ecosystem. So in our business today, our industry is taking note of it. IAB is already trying to create a white paper to say whether blockchain can be used for video advertising or not. And there are other cryptographic means in which they are trying to solve this problem. Some of you here who are into the programmatic world or in the world where they are serving ads, It's an important thing about ads.txt, which is being used to track whether an impression is the right impression or not, and there are no bots who are actually serving the business. So I'll just skip this chart. There are at least 5 potential use cases that's being used today through this technology across this entire value chain from the advertiser to the consumer. At one end, it's being now used to manage the supply chain management itself. It's also being used to do reconciliation and billing because you can track the records properly. It's also being used for data management where you can actually structure in a concentrated manner. It's also being used to protect identity thanks to GDPR regulations. It's also being used to track whether the assets are properly maintained or not. The problem we have today, therefore, is to solve these 6-7 problems which we talked about it, we are already having 38 companies today trying to solve this through blockchain technology. Some of them you can see in the corner here, it's about programmatic landscape. Somebody is doing content management, somebody is doing content reconciliation, and these 38 companies are already building proof of concept or pilots to check whether this technology can be used. I just want to spend a couple of minutes on 2 important companies that's relevant to this forum here today. There is Exchange. It's a company, Kochava. I think some of you who are building apps should know about this. What they're trying to do is to create the third front to Google and Facebook, to combine all the applications that's possible today in the marketplace using a DLT platform to ensure that we can have a global reach of billion users. Because what it does is that information and databases from each of these applications are put in the common ledger. So we get unified interfaces, and all the partners and the owners of these applications work together directly in a secure and trustworthy manner because the cryptography takes care of it and the consensus protocol addresses the issues much better. They have a common set of rails, and it's simplifying, and it is, and in fact, they reached a stage where you can choose markets, you can choose consumers, you can choose locations, but it gives you a unified all application universe, and they should be up and running by end of this year. This is a very good example of how some of these industry partners are coming together. On the other side of the table, there are companies, AT&Ts and Comcasts of the world, are already using blockchain technology to create insights. What they do is they use their information from subscriber information. They match audience and data sets. They create a secure exchange for non-personal information that can be used for targeting, that can be used for improved ad planning and addressable targeting as well, because then it protects privacy and individuals. Not just Comcast. The way we believe today is that every single OTT player can create a similar insights platform in the future. AT&T will have its own garden. You will have Singtel in Singapore will have its own garden. Who knows? In India, you can also have a similar garden here. So we're already creating gardens outside Google and Facebook with this kind of an algorithm to create some kind of insights for planning. What we have also done in the last 6 months is to test whether it is possible or not. With a company called Zilliqa in Singapore, we have now integrated Media Math, Rubicon, and Integral Ad Science as a partner to create some kind of a blockchain platform where the technology can be used to serve ads without any fake news, without any fraud, and identity being protected to ensure things are happening in the proper place. So what I really wanted to talk about is 3 things. One is fraud is very prevalent in the marketplace. It's leading to a lot of mistrust in the system. Technology is often doubted in as much as it's being used and rewarded. And the marketers, the agencies, and the other stakeholders are not in a very clear understanding of what's happening between each other. And we believe a distributed ledger technology is something which can help build more trust and with each other because they're all in the same plane. They can access information. Everything is protected. That's one. And 2 is with more than 2/3 of databases that's available outside us, we don't have control over the information. The only way we can have control is through some kind of a technology where we can access information and in a distributed manner, but without any central authority, it can be managed. The third important thing is about how many of these companies are already doing it today. And in my view, perhaps in the next 12 to 18 months' time, you will see more pilots coming in. There are already 40 pilots running across the world. By the end of next year, hopefully we will know whether blockchain can really solve this problem or not, but the industry is spending a lot of time and money on this. Thank you.